Hello magical hands and welcome to another sewing tutorial. If it's your first time, hi, my name is Jessica. Please do not make it your last time of seeing this channel by hitting on the subscribe button and also turning on post notifications so you get notified every time we upload a new tutorial like this one. So this is the result of the tutorial you're about to watch, which was inspired by this picture right here on Pinterest, and I did add a few details to mine, like making the back piece just like this and also making sure that it has tieable straps at the back because I don't know what the back of this looks like, and also I liked the tieable option. If it's something you're interested in learning, make sure to keep on watching and let's get into the tutorial proper. You will have to fold your pattern paper into two in order to draft the front piece. If you want to do this method directly on your fabric, you are going to waste a lot of fabric, so it's advisable you start with a pattern paper and then you transfer it onwards. After folding the pattern paper into two, we'll proceed to start drafting the basic bodice measurement. I ruled out a straight line on the top part of the pattern paper, which will be the starting line. I'll place my tape from the top part of the pattern paper and I'll mark my shoulder to my bust point measurements, which I usually use 11 inches, and then I'll go ahead and make a straight line across that point. I'll place my tape from the starting line again, and this time I'll take my shoulder measurement to my under bust line, which I usually use 14.5 inches, and I'll make a straight line across that point. The next measurement will be from my shoulder to my waistline, which I'm using 18 inches, and I'll make a straight line across that point. And the last line is going to be the full length. I marked downwards 21 inches and I made a straight line across that point, and that's going to be the full length of this blouse. Back to the starting line, I marked 3.5 inches, which is going to be for my neck width, and then I marked downwards 3 inches, which is going to be for the neck depth. So I'll connect those 2 points together with a curve, which should look like this. Still from that starting line, I'll take my shoulder measurement divided by 2 and I'll mark it right there. So where I marked that shoulder measurement, I'll mark downwards 1 inch, which is going to be for the shoulder slope. And I'll connect a line from there to meet the neck width of 3.5 inches. Where we have the shoulder measurement there, I'll mark downwards my round armhole measurement divided by 2, which I am using 8 inches. And I'll make sure that 8 inches is sitting at the width of the shoulder measurement. Just make sure it's sitting at the width of your shoulder measurement, so the line is very straight by the time you connect it downwards. So after connecting it downwards, I'll extend it to the right side. Now I'm going to find the midpoint of this my armhole line, which is 8 inches, right? The midpoint is 4 inches. So right at that midpoint there, I will mark inwards half an inch. And I'm going to place my curve ruler such that a part of it is touching the base, a part is touching the half an inch, and a part is touching that shoulder measurement there. And in one swipe, we'll get our armhole curve. So the only dart I'm taking for this tutorial, as you can see from the picture inspiration, is the side dart. You can take any other dart you want to. So before then, on the bust point line, I'm going to take my round bust measurement divided by 4, which is right there. I'll just mark it there. Then I'll skip to my waistline. I'll take my round waist measurements divided by 4 and I will mark it right there. And then I'll move to my full length and I'll take my hip measurement. I'll just mark it right there. My upper hip measurement, I'll just mark it right there. So now I'll connect those lines together so that we can have our full basic bodice block. I have not taken the dart yet. So I'm going to use one side of my scissors to trace out the outlines of these basic bodies that I've drafted here. And once I do it, it's going to be visible on the other side. So I'll just open up the pattern paper and then I'll just start tracing out the basic bodies that is already very visible, which you probably might not be seeing, but I'm seeing it very clearly. So I'll just make sure that I transfer all the basic bodies to the other line just as seen, so we can have the full basic bodies. But remember, we've not taken the dart. Like I said, you can take any dart you want to take, but I'm taking only the side dart. I'll fold back the pattern paper so that I can cut out the parts that is not needed, so at least we don't have too much paper on the floor. I'll fold it up again so that I can now take the side darts that I talked about earlier. So I'm going to need my apex measurements, which is my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. Mine is 4 inches. And I'll mark it on the bust point and on the full length. And I'll make a straight line across those points there. From that apex measurement, I'll just try and mark half an inch so that the dart is not too sharp on the bust point, and then I mark downwards 1.5 inch. That's what I want to use. You can use more, you can use less, and you can also mark, let's say, 1 inch on down and then mark 1 inch up if that's what you want. But I just marked my own only from the downside, which looks like this, which indicates that this is the dart. So I'll just use my scissors again to map out that line so it is visible on the other side. So now I'm going to retrace it again on this other side, and I'm just shading it so we know that that is a dart area, just to differentiate it properly. Like I said, you can take the lower body's dart if you want. So now that we are basically done, we are going to move to the neckline. But before then, we are going to rule a straight line along the middle of this pattern paper. So I'm going to pick the side I want to work with, and then I'm going to now make a curve, okay, from this armhole line we have right here. I'm going to create a curve to meet the neck width that we've already marked. Okay, we're just going to blend it. Just take your time to blend it as beautiful as you can, so it's not looking crooked or anything. Just connect from this neckline that we have to meet your already drafted armhole line. So right on that side of the neckline, we are going to mark the shoulder width we want to use. So I'm using 3 inches for the shoulder width. That is how wide I want it to be. I don't want to use the whole shoulder width I have there. You can also use 2 inches if you want, but I'm using 3 inches. So now from the base upwards, I'm going to mark 6.5 inches. You can decide to bring this to your bust point before you connect it. And one thing I noticed is that the bustier you are, the more this cannot properly cover, the overlapping will not be enough for you. So it's advisable that if you are busty, you should let this get to at least your bust point before you do this thing that I'm doing right here. But I just marked 6 inches, and then from that 6 inches on the midpoint line, I connected a slanted line from that shoulder width of 3 inches to meet it right there. Okay, I wish I had not done this because it was not overlapping the way it would have if also for a slim person. For my fabric, I have 2 yards of this red crepe here. Just in case you're wondering, 1 yard should be enough for you to make this. Transfer this pattern to your fabric. Make sure your fabric is placed either good face facing the good face or wrong face facing the wrong face. And then I will also cut along the darts just as seen, making sure that I left some allowance that I'll use to sew up the dart. And this is what it looks like. And you'll see how it overlaps very nicely. So, and then we'll sew up the dart and all of that. But before then, we're going to cut out the lining piece for this. So I cut out the lining piece, but I added gum stay to my lining piece, and that's because the lining is very light. I just want to have control of the lining. I don't want it to be all over the place. So now I'll place it on each other just as seen. And then where I have that 6.5, that 6 inches that we marked earlier downwards, that is where I'm going to sew and stop, just right there. Now also sew up the side dart. Make sure that you sew up the allowance that was left along that area, and then sew from outside inwards. Once you get close to the tip of the dart, you will tighten up your stitch and you will gently sew out. This way you don't have to back stitch, and it's going to be very, very neat by the time you are done. So this is what it looks like. Make sure you repeat all these processes to your lining piece as well. And now we are going to turn the neckline and the armhole, the necessary parts. So before we do that, we are going to notch that point where we sewed and stopped, so it will be easy for us to turn the remaining parts with the lining. So you also notice that I've already turned the lining. I've already sewn the lining and done what I'm supposed to do with the dart and notch that point there. So I'm going to place the good face of the lining on the good face of the fabric, and now we are going to sew along this neckline just as seen. We are going to sew that part together first. So we're going to flip this over to the right face, to the good face, and then we are going to give it a really good press. And that's like the first thing we are going to do, yes, because we are still going to flip it over and turn the other part. But let's first of all, we need the neckline to relax properly first. So now I'll flip it over again to the wrong face after I've ironed the neckline so that I can close up the armhole line first. We're just going to do that, then later we'll come back and work on the lower body. So now that I've placed it like this, I'll just sew up the armhole line. So now I'll flip everything over to the right face so that I can iron it down again, and then we'll move over to hemming or turning the lower part of this blouse. So in order to hem the lower part, I'm just going to roll everything down. This is what everything is looking like so far. So I'm just going to roll down the top part, and then I'm going to flip in both the lining and the main piece, and I will sew up as indicated. Now I'll flip everything to the right face from the side, and that's because we did not turn the sides. So now we successfully turned and prepped the whole front piece, so we're just going to give this a good press. So I cut out two bands that is 6 inches wide, and then the length I did not use a measurement, just make sure it is as long as you want. So I'm going to fold this band up, and I'm just going to shape it up a bit so it is not very straight and boxed, so at least it looks, more like a bow. So I'm just going to trim off that part, just give it a slanted look at one side, just like this exactly. I just connect it down to meet the base, and that is how I'm going to sew. Now after sewing, I'm going to flip it to the right face, and I'll give it a really good press. So the aim is to attach this band to the neckline so that it is tieable along the neckline, and the easiest way to do this is to pull out that neckline or that shoulder measurement. Just pass your hand inside from the side and bring it out, and once you bring it out, we are now going to fix in this already ironed band inside. Also, we're going to fix it like this, and then we are going to sew up that part. We're also going to do the same process to the second shoulder, or with the second band that we cut, and we'll sew up as indicated. After sewing the band, I'm going to now pull out the band. After sewing it, I'll just bring everything out, and this is how it looks. It is very, very neat if you use this method. So this is what the elbow look like after I've worked on the second part. Now we'll move to the back piece. For the back piece, the length of the front piece is going to be the length of the back piece, and that's because we have already taken the side dart, so it has automatically reduced the length of the back piece. This way we don't have to take the zip bulge allowance that I usually take in my previous videos. That's because the back piece is already short and it's not going to have any excess fabric hanging in between. It shouldn't. So the length I have there is 11 inches, but I'm going to use 12 inches, so that I'll use half an inch to hem the top and half an inch to hem the lower part. So I folded the remaining part of the fabric, and then I'm going to mark the top part, and then I also marked down the length. And for the length, I used 12 inches, which I already explained how we'll be sharing the 12 inches. So now I'm going to mark my round bust measurement on that top line that I have there. My round bust measurement divided by 4 is 9.75. I'll mark it there. And then I'm going to move on to my waistline. And my waistline is, I don't have the waistline marked. I also added sewing allowance, but I'll just go towards the lower part, and I'll just assume that to be my waistline. I'll apply my round waist measurement divided by 4, and I'll mark my sewing allowance. Then on the lower part, I'll now take my hip measurements, which was same thing we did with the front piece, and then I'll also add my sewing allowance. I'll connect these lines together just as simple as that. At the back piece is ready. And then we'll go ahead and cut this out. We're also going to cut out the lining for the back piece, and I'm also going to add gum stay to the lining of the back piece, just so that it is even with the front piece. So the top part and the lower part were beginning to look alike, so I just went ahead to mark it on the wrong face. I also notched so that I knew that is the top part, so I don't mix it up with the lower part. So now I'll place the lining on the fabric. I'll just place them on each other, right face facing each other, and I'm going to sew along the top part and also along the lower part. So we are coming close to the end of this tutorial. If you watched to this point, make sure to give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to share, so that can help YouTube recommend this channel to other people as well. So for one side I'll be sewing it up, and for the second side I'll be using the sewing allowance to sew up my zip. Okay, it's best that I use a zip because obviously I did not use any elastic thing. So after doing that, this is what our whole blouse looks like. It came out really beautiful. If you enjoyed watching this video to this point, make sure you subscribe. And that being said, see you in my next tutorial. Bye.